Dirk Paelinck, you are the founder and CEO of Interoffices and Workero, as well as the chairman of the European PropTech Association. Thank you for joining us on BiTV.
Welcome.
First of all, how has Europe's PropTech sector evolved in recent years?
First of all, we need to ask the question, why PropTech is a priority for Europe? We have macroeconomic trends that put a pressure on returns and efficiency, and then the data and technology that drive new needs of end users, and of course real estate being largely digitized. So what we see, we have two kinds of trends that are impacting the real estate and thus the PropTech industry, which is macroeconomic trends such as the climate change or the rise in urban development, aging of the population, especially in Europe. And we have then second, we have the technologies that are impacting real estate, AI, IoT, big data. And out of this was born this movement called PropTech, which basically stands for the technological and business model innovations throughout the whole real estate value chain. So right now, this ecosystem is, in fact, the European ecosystem is based on 24 national networks. And they represent 2,700 EU-based startups and scale-ups in PropTech. So when you look at the market, then we see that about 185 billion is to be deployed in the PropTech market before 2025. And we also see that this figure is increasing in Europe. In 2018, for example, 1.53 billion was invested in PropTech. In 2019, this was already 3.05 billion. And there is no stopping this trend even during this COVID period. And then specifically, when we look at how it evolves, you need to know that the PropTech startups are like now where the fintech startups were about 7 to 8 years ago. The majority, I mean 85%, have less than 500K funding. The majority have also less than 10 FTEs. And 55% are in a validation stage, which means that this is an excellent moment, of course, of growth, and an excellent moment also for investors to get into these games. So you see that the number of deals in a maturing PropTech market now are a bit going down, but the funding is still going up. And then when you look at the trends that we discover is that we have some crowded areas where a lot of technologies are concentrated around, and that's what we call the segments of market and transact and manage and operate. Right? The trends that we see in terms of investing in Europe is that first of all there's a slowdown happening. Because the EU startups and scale-ups and the investors are tied to the internal EU market performance, and we have more and more follow-on deals. So it means that existing investors, they will not let down their current companies or PropTechs that they've invested in and will even invest more. At the same time, COVID-19 is accelerating the need for PropTech solutions, and not only COVID-19, but also the European Green Deal and Next Generation EU. Just to give you an idea, the amount of money that is being made available in EU Next Generation is 1.85 trillion. This is to boost the economy in the Eurozone, and 25% of the budget will be spent on climate investments. And this, of course, has to do a lot with our buildings, with our PropTech solutions, since 16% of the emissions are caused by cars, but 44% of the emissions are caused by buildings. So that is for me a very, very important takeaway. And the reason why European PropTech is going into a bright future is that we have a lot of PropTechs in Europe that are enabling customers to act in the short term to ensure a quick implementation and creating a fast ROI, and then of course able to collaborate within the same geography being Europe.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you talked about different funding programs. The European Commission has announced SQLR, a new innovation funding program. How can this SQLR program help European PropTech companies?
Well, to explain that to you, I must start with telling you that in the maturing PropTech industry in Europe, about 50% of the funding is at the later stages. And that is a pain point in Europe. What is this pain point? The pain point is that we have a lot of companies that are growing, but we don't have enough money that is being invested in those European PropTech startups and scale-ups, especially the scale-ups. And then you need to look at one very important element in PropTech is we do not have what is called a unicorn in PropTech in Europe. 76% are in the US, 24% are in China. So why don't we have a PropTech unicorn, or more than one, of course, in Europe? Well, you need to look at the stages of investment. When we compare to the US, for example, then you see that at the seed stage, there is 10 times as much money invested in a scale-up in PropTech in US than compared to Europe. When you look at a later stage, then that's really typically where PropTech startups or scale-ups are in need of 5, 10, 20, 25 million euros. Well, there the US is 34 times better. So to explain it very simply, a PropTech scale-up in Europe, when he gets 1 million in funding, the same concept, the same company with the same team would get 34 million. So that is really a problem. So, and that's why this the Professor Rudy Arnold of the European Commission, he has come up with what is called the SQLR financial mechanism. And the SQLR financial mechanism is a mechanism that allows pension funds, insurance companies to invest in what we would call risky business. You know that from a legislation point of view, pension funds and also insurance companies are prohibited in investing in startups or scale-ups. In this case, what does the Commission say? They say, if a private investor invests 1 million euros, then we will ask the pension funds to also invest 1 million euros. So talking here about a PropTech fund. So it means that you double the investment. Now, normally it would not be possible, but in this case, the European Investment Bank will guarantee 50% of the investment which is being done by the pension funds. So what is it and why do they do this? Well, because in a general way of speaking, 85% of startups, they fail after 3 years. But when you talk about scale-ups, only 23% of scale-ups fail after 3 years. And that is exactly why we have this SQLR financial program that is helping to close what we call the equity gap. That is the gap that we have when a PropTech scale-up wants to grow and needs 15 million and doesn't find it easily in Europe.
And regarding this growth, how is the European PropTech Association accompanying companies in that process?
Well, the European PropTech Association is an association for profit, of course, with a mission to support a sustainable European PropTech market and creating a positive impact for all the countries in the area PropTech hubs. And there are 4 things that we do. First of all, we are here to standardize the fragmented European PropTech market. Second, we are here to create a legal framework that will be adapted to PropTech in Europe. Third, we are working with the European Commission on legislation. We look at the implementation of the EU Green Deal, EU Next Generation. Let's not forget that the Green Deal will be a catalyst for the development of PropTech in Europe, because we are going to have to transition towards a society where climate action is at the top of the agenda. How do we do this? Well, if we can start building differently, if we can start managing our buildings better so that we lower the energy consumption, we lower the waste, we lower the emissions, then we will have a real impact. So the 4th thing is that we are scaling up the cross-border collaboration within Europe. So we are helping a PropTech, for example, from France. We will be helping him to expand, for example, into Poland. We also can help him when he has like legal challenges to enter in other countries. And to that, in that respect, we also organize, for example, the very well-known PropTech Startup Europe Awards. It's promoted and supported by the European Commission and the European Parliament, while we do, in fact, a competition amongst the best of those 2,700 startups and scale-ups in Europe. And we have there the 120 CEOs of the largest real estate corporates in Europe that are the judges in this competition. And last but not least, we are doing specific initiatives to help the PropTechs also to be innovative. And one of the really big examples that I can give to you is very recent. It's only from 2 weeks ago. We are working together with the European Space Agency in a specific program, PropTech Kickstart called, where the European Space Agency will make available for a select club of PropTech scale-ups or startups technologies that have been developed within the framework of the European Space Agency. So there's a possibility for all the startups to send in their application. There will be a selection, and then the Space Agency can give or may have benefit these companies from these technologies.
Well, thank you for this insight, and thank you all for following us. See you soon on BiTV.